everybody, it is Romania Black, and we're on the second of Sinners in the System for Psychopaths. Yeah! Oh, last episode, I don't know if you knew this, but it was pretty good. You know what, Mika is not my favorite character, but I did not mind the Mika focus. I really liked the focus on Ganoza, so that made up for it. And I was like, yes, I was made up for it a lot. But I've got some comments I want to talk about from Sunspots and Anime Annie. But I'm intrigued by this 3-part Sinners in the System trilogy here of nearly feature length, like hour-long films. It's pretty cool. I think it works well for the psychopath genre. I think the psychopath genre has these nice little concise mysteries that they can do within an hour. It's not bloated or too long, although I don't think the Psycho-Pass movie was too long, despite nearly being 2 hours. It was really good. But I feel like this is a nice, compact, like you get enough information without it feeling too long. I liked that a lot. So, and then it gives us lots to talk about. But speaking of which, let's go through these comments. Sunspots talks a little bit about the production of the Psycho-Pass movie in relation to season 2, talking about how they were actually kind of made simultaneously, which is really impressive to me because I've watched other series where they were done simultaneously and it was like, one of them tended to suffer, and I was like, huh. So I thought that was pretty neat. But they also talked about how being done simultaneously allowed them to make some adjustments to season 2 to match up to the movie. So I thought that was pretty clever. But mainly I liked the idea that Sunspots points out about the Sybil system, because it's easy when you see the word system to view Sybil system as a mechanical, just systematic entity. But Sunspots points out their hypothesis that the Sybil system can be seen as an organism, which I thought was really, really interesting because Kamui, which the Sybil system created, is kind of like a human embodiment of that. It was an organism created of all these different parts and pieces, right? So it's like Kamui was the embodiment, the human version they were trying to create, and it backfired. But Sunspots points out that, you know, just like it's the Frankenstein motif, as an organization and as an organism, the Sybil system's main deal is self-preservation and protecting itself rather than focusing on systematic rules, and that it's kind of parasitic. Yeah, it's like the system takes over Japan, spreads throughout Japan, and then you can't get rid of it, right? It's like a virus. It's like a rash you can't get rid of, right? It's a self-preservation. And the country or the people itself that get infected with the Sybil system, they can't just discard it. They can't just cure this disease caused by the system, which I thought was really interesting because back in season 1, Makishima talks about a disease created by the Sybil system that's actually a illness that exists. So we have this illness created by the Sybil system and the idea of people becoming like numb vegetables. And then we have the metaphorical disease that spreads throughout the Sybil system like a virus that takes over countries and takes over people and is parasitic and feeds off of them, and they can't get rid of it and discard it. So I thought that was interesting. But Akane, our girl Kane, she's trying her best to do so. And then the other comments were from Anime Annie. I'm glad Anime Annie pointed out the timeline up to this point, or at least past the movie. They noted that November 5th, 2012 was the start of season 1. Season 2, episode 2, there was a little date on Akane's computer that said October 22nd of 2014. So 2 years passed between season 1 and season 2. And then I was like, but then the movie is in July of 2016. So the movie happens 2 years after season 2. And I was like, oh God, that means Mika's been being used by Kasai and been a dog of the system for 2 years. And then the last Sinner system, the first one we watched, was in February of 2011-17, which was like several months after that. So Akane's been in the Public Safety Bureau about 5 years. She's almost known Ganoza for 5 years, which is crazy to me. And Mika has been basically with the knowledge of the Sybil system for nearly 3 years. What? What? That's insane to me. That is insane. So I do want to also note that Anime Annie pointed out that the watch translators that they use in the movie, they publicly were released in 2018, 2019, but this Psycho-Pass movie came out in 2015. So ahead of its time, some of the technology and technological advances in this show, I'm like, I can either see it happening in the near to distant future or it's already happening, which is the most mind-blowing, right? Like, who's watching this series besides us, right? And then Mika, I do want to point out a few little things. One, Akane seems to be gathering a lot from Masaoka and Kogami. From Masaoka, she takes on his detective ability and inspection techniques, and from Kogami, his like physical training, his self-defense, which I think is beautiful that she carries those pieces of them with her. But then also the difference mainly with the memory scoop in the Psycho-Pass movie talks very much about the difference between Mika and Akane. Back when Akane did the memory scoop in season 1, it was very dangerous. Genoza said no, but Akane went ahead and did it. But it was Akane's choice, her body, her choice to do the memory scoop. There weren't those extra drugs involved, and it went well. Here, Mika forces the latent criminal to do the memory scoop. I'm sure they didn't consent. She forces them to do it, gives them drugs, and they die. So a very different note between Mika and Akane and Genoza. So, which I'm all about it. If you all watched my discussion last week, I'm all about these differences, but it does make me nervous. So, with that being said, we're not going to waste any more time. We're going to dive right in and see what we get. So, we're going to start Psycho-Pass Sinners in the System, episode 2. And we're going to start that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. What can we say? What can we say? I don't know if I need to bring Whiteboard Coon out for this one because I feel like most of this movie, which I am so enjoying the Sinners in the System series so far. Like, the movie was really good. The first one was nice because we got Mika and Genoza focus. We got to specifically look at Mika. We also got Kunizuka added to it. Is Hinakawa gonna get a recognition in the next one? That'd be amazing. But I love that this was a prequel. I feel like they were like, hey, we just gave you an hour's worth of Genoza fan service. Do you want more Ayanagi and Masaoka fan service? Do you want SUGO fan service? And I'm like, yes, please. Yes, please. So I'm all about that. This was amazing. I liked SUGO in season 2. I am a little bit like, okay, so they retconned season 2. They were like, whatever, we don't care about season 2. And I'm like, So, but I mean, the only thing was he was working at the freight, ocean liner where Kamui had set up base. So I guess if you wanted to get specific, I guess maybe as part of his treatment, they sent him to the facility to work with those guys, and then it didn't work. So they sent him to the treatment facility afterwards. So maybe he was just with those guys for like a 6-month stint, trying to get his hue under control, trying to work in another environment. It didn't work, and they sent him to the treatment facility. Or they just forgot he was there from season 2, and they were like, whatever. They're like, nobody's going to remember that. Nobody's going to remember that little retcon detail. I did, but that's okay. I think this is a much better backstory for SUGO than he was just a department worker that became an enforcer. They had to give a much more dramatic backstory, and I'm not opposed to that. I'm okay with that. I love SUGO. I like him. I liked him in season 2. I liked him and Genoza's interactions, which now, he and Genoza, their interactions now, it's like, well, that makes a lot more sense why, him and Masaoka and now Genoza, them connecting. I love that, but damn. I guess if I was going to use Whiteboard Goon for anything, it would be to draw the Masaoka and Ayanagi, connections, but... So this is October 2016. Man. And so Akane shows up with this woman from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I feel like all the different ministries are slowly starting to get involved. We've had economics, we've had the economy, we've had welfare, we've had the Public Safety Bureau. We've had everybody slowly start to get integrated, and now we're dealing with this bussamy blonde who, has been going overseas. Her red earrings kind of make me think somewhat of Kasai. So I'm like, is she like a version like Kasai, the Foreign Affairs? Is she going to end up being a robot? And she's going to be like Kasai's like international foreign affairs double. We'll see. We'll see. Frederica Hanashiro. Sure thing. She's like, I'm on loan. Even the idea of her being on loan makes me think of a robot, makes me think of a device that's on loan. She's like, I'm just here to the Public Safety Bureau. I want to note the desks area and everything here. We have we have Hinakawa there at his desk. We have Kunozuka. We have Ginoza's at Masaoka's desk. Is that right? And then Sugo is at Kogami's. That's now Togani's. That's now Sugo's desk. And then sitting back there in the sweet half circle desk that used to be Ginoza's is Mika. So, damn. They do so much to make Ginoza look amazing. And also, since his glasses are gone, it was a culture shock to see Ginoza with the glasses and the long draping bangs. When he has the long draping bangs, he looks a lot like his mother. A lot like his mother. But then when his hair is pulled up in the ponytail and it's a little bit more scraggly and he doesn't have the glasses on, he looks more like Masaoka. So, and it was such a shock too to see how Ginoza was back when he was trying so hard to be in Mika's position and was just grumpy all the time and Ginoza grump and like, why is everything, because he was trying so hard. And now that he's not trying and he's just himself, now that his dad sadly passed, he's so much better of a character. It's so crazy, right? The biggest character arc I think I've seen in a character in recent memory has been Ginoza throughout this series so far. It's crazy. Now, I am wondering if Ginoza's mother is still alive. I mean, it's really sad to think that he was really close with Ayanagi, really close with Ginoza, and they're both gone. He was really close, it seemed, to Kogami and Kagari. They're both gone. So now it's literally just Akane and his team with Kunozuka and the others. But I don't know if his mom is still alive. The way they described, they said she was in a nursing care facility. So I don't know if she had like an overdose of the medication, like what happened to the artist girl's father, and she's just, like this numb vegetable, or if she has dementia, or if there's like a long-term illness that she has. Her hair like had the gray streaks in it, so she was beautiful even though she was older. I was like, oh, she was gorgeous, but I don't know if she's still alive. I'm wondering if they showed us her to set up for future seasons or episodes that she's going to come back into the picture and be of relevance. That doesn't bode well because, like, Akane's grandma, we saw her in a nursing home facility and she got her ear chopped off and then killed. So I'm like, I don't want Ginoza to lose. You know what they're going to do? If he hasn't already lost her already, she's like the last family, the last like close inner circle person except Akane and Kunozuka. She's going to pass and then Ginoza's going to be like sad and alone. And I'm like, I don't want that for him. I don't want that for him unless Akane like comforts him. I don't want that. So I like at the very beginning that Mika, whenever the foreign ministry woman enters to talk with them, Mika is like, oh, you were part of the interministerial personnel exchange by the cabinet secretariat, right? She just rattles that off like she found it out herself. We know good and well the Sybil system gave her that information. We know damn well they gave her that info. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Done. I was like, Mika, she's not in this a whole lot. She does have a nice little moment, though, which we'll talk about. I'm going to take a couple photos while I'm talking with y'all about this for some of the screenshots. But yeah, she's just, she even has the Gendo pose. She even does the Kasai Gendo pose, like she's going to take over. Does not bode well, but Mika has like one good moment in this before we dive into Sugo's backstory. I like that Akane is just like, I'm just going to ignore this. Connie's like, it's fine. And then she's like, if you made a mistake, they talk about, a few months ago, they're like, they had all this stuff happening over in the Southeast Asia Union. And they're like, now we're trying to do cleanup. So we hope you work with us. Right. And then she's like, is someone with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs dissatisfied with the state of the Sybil system? Mika is looking for any excuse to kill this lady. She's like, do you have a problem with the Sybil system? Am I going to have to take you out? And this lady's like, whoa, hold on there, gunslinger. Let's back up a second. She's like, no, not at all. And she has the glasses and stuff, which might just be an accessory. Usually when movies and stuff have like that extra character, they give her like a quirky accessory to make her look different. And so she's like, no, it's fine. And I'm like, So And she's like, no, not at all. I feel like she is connected to Kasai. I just have that feeling. But we'll see. We'll see if Frederica is connected to Kasai or what the case may be. So I didn't realize the analyst was literally Shion, but she is. That makes sense. And so then Sugo seems to know her. And before we get to Sugo getting targeted by her, we have on the rooftop. The thing with Akane and the coffee cup, I'm like, that's me on a daily basis. The moment I get coffee, I'm like, yes, thank you. Freaking love Akane. But I do appreciate the symbolism of Mika and her sitting on the bench, and they're on opposite ends of the bench because they are literally on opposite ends of the justice system. Crazy talk. Crazy talk. And she basically asks, she's like, Frederica, she's like, she was in charge of the overseas investigations with the Ministry of Affairs. And then I like that Connie's like, yeah, she takes care of the dirty work. And Mika's like, well, how did you know about this? Obviously, Akane has talked to Kasai. Mika just doesn't know about it. And she's like, I checked because it was unusual. And then I like that Mika's like, please don't get involved in strange political affairs. She's like, I don't want to have to fight with you. I don't want to tell Sybil System. She's like, have we already gone through this? But I like Akane. She's like, make some effort to avoid risk. Like, Mika starts to get onto her, and Akane is just like, don't worry. There's nobody with abs overseas that I need to go see. Akane's like, I don't gotta see Kogami, so I'm staying right here. You're fine. I like that moment where she stretches, and she's like, I always think about what's best for Division 1. I absolutely love that moment because, one, it's a great moment because, one, she's like, look, I'm only looking after my division. You ain't got to worry about me. But it's almost like she kind of knows Mika is trying so hard, and she's just like, it'll be fine. And then there's that little smile from Mika, like, hey, we're going to be okay. So even though Mika has been like trying to get authority and respect so freaking hard, I appreciate that her and Akane have this moment of being like, look, we're going to look out for our own. We're doing what's best for the division. Don't worry. But at the same time, they're both interacting with Sybil System without each other knowing it. It's mind-boggling. It's fascinating. I'm glad after the first Centers of the System, we get a little break from Mika. I like her, but I wanted more focus on someone else. And Sugo is the one to do it. Although, gonna point this out, okay? Sugo is wearing the exact same color of workout uniform that Togani was wearing. I don't think Kogami was wearing the same color. So this is creepy and morbid, but I wouldn't be surprised if they took like enforcer uniforms and reused them, and Sugo's kind of the same size as Togani. So what if they just washed his uniform and gave it to him and was like, here you go, now you get this. That's so creepy, but probably what happened. And then you have this woman sitting down to Tepe. I love his name is Tepe. And she's like, yeah. She's like, you don't belong in a place like this. You're the former ace pilot. You should join the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and help us overseas. And then we cut back to his apartment. I do like his apartment. Everybody's apartment is the same setup, but it looks a little bit different. His has like the liquor that he got from Oscar there on the table. He also has like little plants and like lettuce and stuff growing behind him. This little entrepreneur growing his own garden, right? I love that. I think that's really cute. But man, getting the SUGO backstory. I love him just dramatically putting the glass of brandy and stuff on his forehead. We get a lot of really good SUGO fan service. And I like that the most of this entire episode is just talking about Sugo's adventures with Masaoka and them. So she's like, if you enlist, you won't be a latent criminal anymore. That is like, on the one hand, I almost brought White Raccoon to write this down, but on the one hand, cool, but on the other hand, how does that work? She's basically saying the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has ways of getting around it where you can have your restrictions lifted, which would kind of make sense because we've seen in the movie how several people in military forces, like, they could manipulate things to where their crime coefficient doesn't show up or where it's not considered a factor, things like that. So I feel like it makes sense she's able to do that, but also I'm like, it seems almost like a trap. I'm like, does Kasai know you're doing this? Are you aware of this? I don't know. But I'm glad he says no, because if he's a latent criminal, then I feel like eventually they're going to, test his crime coefficient and send him back after they use him. Or worse, they get rid of him after they use him. So after everything he went through with the National Defense Forces, I don't blame him for being like, nah, I'm good. I'm good where I'm at, right? So he's like, you were excellent at protecting the land forces. And then we go back to the backstory where he gets them all killed, right? But there's that picture of all of them on there, and seeing Reen. You know what I'm glad they didn't do? I'm glad they didn't do like a jealous side angle, because for a hot second, when Oscar finds out that Reen and SUGO are from the same graduating class, I felt like there was going to be a jealous husband angle where he was going to be like, I don't know, try to say that Reen was cheating on him with SUGO, or that SUGO was responsible for something. And SUGO's a baby lamb. So I'm glad they didn't go that route. I'm glad they stuck with Reen not only being loyal to Oscar to a fault, but willing to like risk it all to get revenge for him. I was like, that's crazy. I love it. I like that angle a lot. I'm glad they went that route. So yeah, this whole movie is just a prequel about SUGO's backstory. And it's really freaking cool. I love it. I like that we're tying in the same people and the same area that Kogami was involved in later on. It's also establishing that Sybil system taking precedence in the SEAU, the Southeast Asian Union, that it sets this precedent that this is not just something that happened overnight. This is something that the Sybil system and Japan has been working on for a while, for years. And it kind of shows like just the setup and the way the operation has slowly evolved and taken root and fostered over time, which is very true to real life. I'm going to be honest. A lot of this movie kind of hit home a little bit. And I was like, ooh, this is real. This feels real. And I'm a little uncomfortable with it, because it's just like, oh crap, this is literally, some of these things are literally happening and have happened in our reality. But also, I want to point out, we've come a long way from season 1. Season 1 was this, you can say whatever you want about Mikishima and how larger than life he was, but all the crimes Mikishima were doing was very contained to Tokyo. They were contained within the city, within the Public Safety Bureau. And then season 2, it's like the borders start to get a little bigger. We're starting to go towards the edge of Japan. We're starting to like touch on the idea of immigrants and people coming in from other countries. We're making the borders a little bigger. The world's getting bigger. And in the movie, we're getting outside the border and revealing how messed up the world is. And seeing how that's going. And then this kind of establishes, the sinners in the system kind of establish that even more. The idea that we're getting into the outside world that the Sybil system hasn't taken root in yet, and seeing how they deal with things and how it compares to the Sybil system, and what all goes down in between these two forces. So it's interesting. But yeah, so I don't have much to say about the tactical side of it. Just talking about the military angle of SUGO protecting them. I do want to make note that SUGO, his vital condition, which is his hue, is like a bright blue, and it's like his crime coefficient is like 78 at the start, and then later when he does the training, it jumps up to like 192 and it's red, and they're like, no, you can't pilot the drone anymore. Also, another thing that hits really close to home is the idea that these guys are just piloting these drones. It's a little bit close to home, and we talked at the beginning of this about technology catching up with reality, and I'm like, yep. I'm like, that's, ugh. Especially when he figures out that the supplies that he dropped were basically just toxic gas killing all of them so that there were no loose ends. I figured that's what drove his crime coefficient over the edge, was knowing that he killed all of them, right? I feel like that would do the trick. Also, I do like the continuity that SUGO, his pilot friend that helps him, is the one that gets tortured and killed later on. Like, they kept that consistent, so that was good. But then we go to the Camp Schwab base, and they have like the celebration for the end of the mission, right? All these shots of SUGO, I'm going to be taking lots of screenshots because SUGO looked really good in this episode. It was great. I felt like it would be a red flag when they had the barbecue, which of course anime food looks amazing, but when they had the barbecue and they talked about the one girl, Rin, the wife of Oscar, and the fact that her hue was clouded and she was leaving the service, I was like, man, that kind of sucks. The one thing I will say about this movie that I wish we had more of, I do love the toast between Sugo and Oscar. I thought that was really cool, and it's beautifully animated. It looks great. I'm going to try to get them clanking their beers together in the sunset. It's so wonderful. And then Sugo's like, happy times. Nothing bad's going to happen. It's like, I don't know about that. The one thing I was going to say, as they pour their cold brewskis, down their throats, was there was a girl on the team. There was like a girl in the group. She is no-named. She never shows up, and we never hear of her again. She's just literally a pair of boobs that are there. We know nothing about her. I wish we'd gotten more with her. That would have been really cool. But to be fair, there are 2 other guys that don't get mentioned at all, and we don't know what happens to them. They die like in the battlefield. But yeah, this whole time she's talking about her hue being clouded and her going away. I kept thinking that there was going to be some subplot where Sugo and her were going to get close and Oscar was going to blame her for like taking her away from him. I'm glad we didn't go down that route because that's kind of like tried and true and kind of cliche. So I'm glad we didn't do that. But it's what I really like is the idea that Sugo had this really good relationship with Oscar. Like they were besties, like they trained together, like he went to school with Oscar's wife. Like they were just, I like also the way we come back to Tepe can't beat the training robot, and at the very end he can. It's like, and the comments saying that if it had been the real Oscar, he wouldn't have won. I'm like, oh, shut up. It's really good. Poor Sugo. Sugo is kind of like, and Sugo's kind of like Ganoza, where he loses quite a lot, right? He not only loses Oscar and Rin, which are like the 2 people closest to him, kind of like Ganoza loses Masaoka and Ayanagi. It's like Ganoza and Sugo have a lot more in common than they think. It's like Sugo just hasn't lost an arm yet. So yeah. And then they talk about the idea that the special forces are types with hard to cloud hue, even if we kill people. And Sugo's like, what are we talking about this all of a sudden? And he makes the point of saying, we're going to be in a real fight. Is it okay if we kill people just because Sybil System says that it's necessary? That's the question, isn't it? That's the $1 million question. So then they end up going, they talk about having the medicine to get rid of the alcohol. I'm like, I want that hangover cure. Thank you very much. And we get the secret mission foot stamp that they're on to go there and basically handle the hostile forces. They're basically setting up the prime. They're setting up the prime location and the prime conditions for Sybil System to come in and set up a base that we see in the movie. Which I love continuity like this. I like when series all connect together and it all makes sense. We'll ignore that retcon moment. We've already talked about it. It's fine. There's a technical reason for it. But yeah, but then they go on the mission and it goes awry. I don't have much to say about this part here, except that it just sucks because you get to see from Sugo's perspective and from his character that he's such a kind person that even though he's doing all of these things, he cares about the people he's involved with and he wants to keep them safe. And the defense forces, they don't care. And they just end up having these people killed and it sucks. And it's like, oh no. And you know Sugo's going to find out later. But here's the crazy thing. Sugo, for all intents and purposes, despite, everything bad that happens to Oscar, everything bad that happens to Rin, despite his crime coefficient going up, despite him becoming a latent criminal, Sugo never tries to get revenge. Sugo is a lot like Ganoza in the sense that Ganoza and Sugo, they both tried to help the people they cared about, but they didn't do like a Kogami where Kogami went after people. Kogami did become a criminal and go after folks and killed Makishima, right? He did. So the fact that Ganoza and Sugo, neither of them did that, I think it speaks volumes for their characters, and I think it speaks volumes for how similar they are and in terms of being a character. That's so cool to me. But yeah, it sucks. It sucks they get drawn out. Also, a little continuity thing. The one guy that walks up to tell the one woman to order Sugo to drop the payload, he ends up being the guy that plays the body double for the bandaged head man when he gets shot by Reen. So, ugh. I do like the inside of the cockpit of the airplane, and we get to see like all the different like flare chaff, fuel, vitals, maps, the LGB, AMS, MK. We get to see all this, and his vital condition is getting yellow. It's like 107. So he realizes that he's out of ammo, and they have him drop the payload and then leave. And then he's like, I'm going to return home. And he's like, drink that brandy. If you get there safely, open that brandy and eat it and drink it. And then he has the chip inside the, which I'm glad that he told him all that so he'd have the brandy and it would be like something sentimental. And he doesn't realize at the time it has a little microchip in it that's going to give him all the information. Clever. Clever, Oscar. You're a clever man. So this tiny little scene, we'll talk about real quick, the tiny little scene where the three men meet to talk about the SEA-UN. He's like, we're going to fight some more. Like the scene where they're all just like enjoying their cognac and their brandy and stuff over ice. It's beautifully animated. It's really well lit. And it's just like embodies this idea of this wealthy set of privileged men who are controlling the lives of all those around them. I thought it was really well animated. I liked it a lot. But anyway, they talk about what the next steps are. And then we see SUGO getting the brandy, the photo. And then, that shot of him on that couch. Can we talk about this? I am so, you know what? Psycho-Pass is great for a number of reasons. They have strong female characters, a wide cast of characters you care about, and lots of fan service. And I am here for it. Thank you. You don't get to see fan service with guys a lot in shows that I watch, so I am always down for it, 100%. But yeah, and the photo is given to him. I want to get a shot of that photo. I'll give it to you, SUGO. And it's a photo of all of them. That might be the thumbnail, is that little photo. It would be a good thumbnail. It's hard to pick thumbnails for this series because they have to fit, but... Oh, so he meets up with Rin, and it's so sad because, like, she ends up having a miscarriage, which is, like, Heartbreak City. He was, like, so excited that she was going to have their kid, and they tell that the medication she was taking and the side effects of it caused her to have a miscarriage, which is absolutely terrifying. I'm like, that's so sad. Ugh, my heart. Not cool. Not cool at all. I hated that. And I wondered about that when they were talking about like therapy and stuff, because we got in the last movie, we got the kid being born in the containment center. And here we have talking about how the drugs to maintain your hue can cause you to have a miscarriage, which is super sad. I'm like, that sucks. But she really gets mad at SUGO. I want to go back to this scene because she slaps him hard. He says Yoshida's death was confirmed and the others are MIA. I've been told to treat them as missing. And he's like, even if I apologize, my lack of power. What does he say there? You'll suffer the same. He talks to her about and tries to apologize to her. He's like, let me just say, because of my lack of power, I was forced to abandon my senpai. And I'm really sorry. But in that moment, he's like, if anything happens, I want you to call me right away. In that moment of her slapping him, it's like, I've almost felt like she knew that it was more than just he had to abandon them. I almost felt like she knew there was more to the story, but she was slapping him not only because she was mad that he ends up being the killer of Oscar, but also because she's mad because she knows that SUGO doesn't get it. She's like, you're so dumb, you don't understand that this was an inside thing. How could you? And I felt for SUGO. I was like, no, our precious bean. What can we do? So yeah. So then he can't complete the training exercises. His Psycho-Pass is over 180. He can't get out of it, and he's just like, what do I do? And then they're like, we've been searching for his whereabouts. I just love the light shining over SUGO when he finds out that they've been searching for it and they can't find where he's at. And then 3 months later, there's the drone strike against the Ministry of Defense, right? Basically taking out all those involved in the deaths of Oscar and the others. So then I didn't see this coming. When they said this was back in 2112, I was like, well, that would have been during season 1. And here we get Masayoka showing up with Ayanagi. I love the connection to this. I love how Ayanagi getting to know SUGO affected her seeing him and getting him to come with them on the mission. Now, some of you may say, well, back in season 2, Ayanagi sent SUGO and some of the other enforcers down into that building, and Ayanagi got attacked. Like, was that her fault? No, it was the fault of the other enforcers who abandoned him. Poor SUGO, getting abandoned by the other enforcers. But I think it speaks volumes as to why Ayanagi, like, sticks with SUGO, wanted him to transfer divisions with her, because she has history with him. And then Masaoka, we got Kagari and Masaoka in this. I was so excited, and we got quite a lot of Masaoka. Like, he was getting to be a detective, and, you know, it's fun. It seems at this point in the series, during this flashback, that Masaoka and Ayanagi have been working together for quite some time. Also, it makes sense why Ayanagi asks Masaoka to come work for her, because she probably knows the inside story between Masaoka and Ginoza. Ginoza does not want to work with Masaoka because it's his dad and it causes stress for him. So it makes sense that if Ayanagi was like, hey, I want to borrow somebody from Division 1 to come with me, Ginoza would be like, take my dad, and she'd be like, I want to take your dad. So I don't blame her. I would take him too. I wish I could have gotten Ayanagi around Akane and Masaoka together more. I think that would have been really, really interesting. But yeah, they basically are trying to track down Oscar, and SUGO is pretty sure that he's still dead. And they're like, well, we need to go find him. And so the defense ministry is like, we don't know why the public safety bureau is involved. And I like the Ayanagi covers was saying, well, that's because he's a common citizen now. What are you hiding? And they're like, what are you hiding? They basically try to get poor SUGO to spy on both sides. And SUGO's like, I'm just a guy. I feel like SUGO would start to sing like the Ken song from Barbie. It's all right, SUGO. You are Knuff. But yeah. So they're talking about the drones and everything and about the complications of it and that there could be something going on. And SUGO's like, what do we do? Poor SUGO, he's like caught in the middle of all this web. It's just, he just looks so good throughout this. I do think that I feel like the plot of this backstory is not as, it's not very book clubby like the movie was, and there's not like all this extra details about like the underground and the slave aspect of the last time, and then what do we do about them having different sections of the Sybil system. This was literally just to give context to SUGO's backstory, which has me excited because it makes me think that SUGO will be an important player in season 3 or in other movies. I think there's a season 3. I'm pretty sure there's a season 3, but I am assuming that maybe the Sinners in the System will help us to get a better understanding of SUGO because he's going to be an important player later on. I hope so. I'm really rooting for him. But yeah. So he basically ends up with Masaoka and Ayanagi going along with them. Masaoka, here's the one thing. Masaoka's really good at like getting in people's spaces and persuading them. Ginoza does not do that. So for all intents and purposes, the last few, the movie and the last episode of Sinners in the System, I was saying that Ginoza is really taking after Masaoka a lot. But there are some things that Ginoza doesn't do that Masaoka does that I like that separates the two of them. Like Masaoka is not afraid to get up in your personal space and convince you of something. Whereas, you know, I don't think Ginoza would ever get up in your personal space like Masaoka does, unless he's trying to punch you, right? But, I just can't get over just, you can see Ginoza has Masaoka's eyes, but everything else about Ginoza is his mom. Everything else. It's, I just love this. I could sit here and just rave about Masaoka all day because of how good he looks. He just looks so good there. And then we see Kagari. I'm like, I can't believe we get to see our sweet redhead again. I'm so excited. And we get to see him working with Kogami and Ginoza. Also, Ginoza is such a grump. He's just so angry all the time. He's just so grumpy. It's great. And they all like, I feel like Kogami and Kagari in this car scene are like, what do you think, Ginoza? What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? They keep poking him and he's like, I don't know. So good. It's so good. I love it. All right. But yeah, we get back here. What a grump. I want to get to that point of seeing him again. Oh, any chance that Psycho-Pass has to give us Kogami fan service, I will take it. So yeah, of course, we get to where Oscar supposedly was staying and there's no evidence. And of course, Kogami, being very much like Mikishima, says, well, a lack of clues is a clue in itself. And I'm like, oh my God, get in the book club now. Kogami rides this fine line between whether he's like a bloodhound tramp from the ditches of society and whether he's in like the book club sipping tea and eating madeleines. There is no middle ground with Kogami, right? I do love seeing Kogami in this moment, and I like seeing Ganoza in the background watching him. Like, you can kind of see a little bit of Kogami's obsession with the investigation in this one little moment, and Kogami watching him. It's something that's going to come back in season 1, and I love that. It's so good. So anyway, we go back to Rin's house. She's beautiful. It's sad that she ends up dying because she's so pretty. And Masaoka, I love that he instantly, like, because he's been married, he has a wife, he kind of knows the bond between a husband and wife, and he's like, you love your husband. You'd do anything for him. So I feel like in that moment, he realized it was her and that she was helping out, like, the robot or something with Oscar. I think he knew. Masaoka's pretty intuitive, so I feel like he knew at that moment. But she's so pretty. They animate her so well in this. I love it. I love how they do that. I want to get a good screenshot of her. But yeah, and then Masaoka's like, hey, I'm just making an assumption, but you may be the one responsible for all this. And she's like, look, I'm going on vacations and taking medication because it helps me. It's interesting because the Sybil system is framed as either this entity that kills people or one that, you know, saves people depending on how you look. But this movie kind of touches on the gray area there and the idea that she is taking this medicines to help her and that she's not totally wrecked by the system yet. I know. I can't get over Masaoka being here. It's just all the screenshots. Okay. So, and SUGO can't stand the idea that Rin or Oscar would be hurting people like this because he has such high esteem and values for all of them. Anyway, so the government wants to use him as a spy, and meanwhile we're in Okinawa, so that's good to know that Okinawa is where Ganoza's mom is. And I like the idea that Ayanagi, while they're there, is like, hey, you need to go see your wife because here's the thing. Masaoka is an enforcer. He doesn't get to go on holidays. He doesn't get to go on vacation. He doesn't get to just get up, leave, and go see his wife. He's an enforcer. He's a latent criminal. They're not going to let him do that. So Ayanagi's like, I'm an inspector. I'm going to take this opportunity, let you go see your wife. She's such a saint. Like, what a great person. And then she takes responsibility for it when Ganoza gets pissed. He's like, why are you seeing my mom? And she's like, look, I gave him permission. And Ganoza's like, stay out of our family business. What's so crazy is Ayanagi was so tied to Ganoza and Masaoka. It makes me want more of them all together. It also makes me wish that Ganoza and Ayanagi had got a chance to get together, but we can't have nice things. Apparently we can't have nice things. So what can we do? But, and the moment he realizes where they are, I swear, the moment they show that they're going on this route and Masaoka realizes they're going to her house, like, my heart just, like, fell to the bottom of my stomach for him because he knows that they're going to see her. And she's like, look, I'm going to take a little detour. Oh. And then just his face when he knows he's going to see her. Oh. And you could see on his face before he even walks in the door how, like the pain in his eyes. That's a very Ganoza look. Ganoza gets his dad's pain in his eyes. Oh, it broke my soul. I was just in a state of shock getting to see her. And then she just looks she's so beautiful, but she just looks so quiet and not respondent. And he just walks towards her. Oh. And I just love how caring he is with her in that moment. Oh. My heart melted in this moment. And of course, Ganoza would be pissed because he's afraid that her seeing him is going to cause her stress. The way that he talked to her, though, it feels like there's just nothing to do there. And then she does blink once, which is, And then Ayanagi talks up Masaoka to SUGO, saying the legendary detective Masaoka, a natural-born demon at the place of crime scenes. Oh, she idolized him is what it sounds like. And she's like, he became a latent criminal because of all the stuff that he saw. It just affected it. He solved all these cases. I love this moment with Ayanagi and Sugo. It's really cool because later on, you know, they're going to be in the same division. Also, it's nice because with Division 2 in Season 2, I commented on how the divisions seem to be a little bit different, and Ayanagi's division didn't seem to be as close with one another, which was true. They seemed very distant, and then Division 3 seemed also distant from one another. But here, we kind of get to see where Sugo and her have this relationship pre-developed that carries with them, which makes the fact that Sugo kills her in Season 2 all the worse, right? It hits you that it's like, oh, it's like I was judging Division 2 because they didn't seem as close as Division 1, but look at Ayanagi and Sugo. They have this great chemistry and relationship. Then you realize in Season 2 that he's the one that shoots her to death, and it's like, oh my God, Sugo, give this man a hug. He deserves it. I was like, oh my God, that's terrifying. Poor Sugo. And so, yeah. And she's like, he's an excellent detective and he doesn't give up, which is exactly what Akane has taken from him. And he's like, after things turn out this way, what does he say about Ginoza? The rest of my life is for him. Oh. And it ends up being that way. They just tug at our heartstrings. They just tugged at our heartstrings, made us feel, even if my son has a grudge against me, that's my job as a father. Oh my God, shut up. Cannot. He's like, I see the goalpost. Why is he so perfect? Ginoza's inherited his perfection from his father. It's like, I just want him to be happy. And yeah, her sitting there. Oh. So then they go back. And yeah, and I love he's happy that Ayanagi took him to go see his wife. Of course, Ginoza is pissed that they show back up. He's mad. He's like, why are you here? And he's like, and he, you know, says to the enforcer Masaoka. I love that he has his hand like pressed against the bench. Poor Ginoza. He does remind me a lot of Mika in this moment, because Mika getting flustered and Ginoza getting flustered is kind of similar. And he's like, Ayanagi, why are you putting your nose where it doesn't belong? And he's like, I like that he stays relatively calm for Ayanagi, and the moment Masaoka talks to him, he's like, what are you doing? Like, he instantly gets angry. He's like, I got an update from the nursing care drone. Why did you go see Mother now? Oh. And Ayanagi's like, I suggested he pay her a visit. There won't be many opportunities like this. And that's the thing. Like, his mom seems like she may die. So she's like, I wanted him to see his wife, you know, before she might die, which is not what Ginoza wants to hear. And he's like, don't get involved. This is between me and Enforcer Masaoka. Which makes the beginning of Season 1 where everybody's like, oh, Ginoza and Masaoka, let me tell you. And they all get like, just so you know. Yeah, it definitely feels personal. And he's like, it's okay, Ayanagi. Oh. He's like, don't worry, I'll talk to him. Then they go back, and they do talk, and you hear the end of it where Ginoza's like, you're being a nuisance, never do something like that again. And he storms out. And then when he storms out, of course, he takes off his glasses and does the bridge of his nose like he's frustrated. Because you know there's more to it than that. But what can he say? You know? He doesn't want to say, and then we have the drone attack there, so yeah, so Sugo finds himself in the middle of all this. We find out that Reen and the drones are taking out all the people involved in the crimes against her husband and the others. And then they reveal to Sugo that he was responsible for killing basically all of them. Now, the whole eye scene, oh my God. The eye scene was terrifying, but before we get to that, the idea that this one colonel, like, tries to get on Masaoka by being like, oh, you know, are you, like, looking out for your kid and your wife? And be a shame if something happened to them, and Masaoka's like, what'd you say about my kid? I was like, oh my God. I felt like Stanley from The Office, where he's like, you need help finding your way? I'll help you find it. One of those moments. He's like, what do you think would happen if you try to touch my wife and child? Ugh. I also feel like this is maybe why Ginoza doesn't get in a relationship, because, you're a latent criminal. Things probably won't end well. And he knows from his father's side what that's like. Which is sad. You don't have to have a kid, Ganoza. You just need to get laid. It's fine. They make things for that. You'll be okay. The eye scene, though. Nope. That's some Clockwork Orange shit. Absolutely not. I was like, why are we doing this? I don't like touching my eyes. The contacts that I wear are like 8-week contacts. I don't take them out. I don't want to touch my eye unless I have to. That is terrifying. No, thank you. Nope. Nope. That was absolutely disturbing. And they show what they did to the one friend. They killed him. How dare. Yeah, I'm glad we get past that part. That part was awful. So yeah, they fix his little eye up with a little cute patch. And they save him and they get him involved to catching Oscar and figuring things out. Meanwhile, we also get to see Kogami and Kagari in action, which is fun, seeing them track down. I like the idea that we get to see Kagari being used as like the person, like be the lookout, be like, look, Kogami behind you, and he gets to do that, and then Ganoza chases after him. It's fun to see Kogami and Kagari and Ganoza working together. That part was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that. It makes me long to see Akane like enter the fray, because that's kind of the cool thing. Like, Kunazuka's not on the force yet. Shion's there. We have Shion as part of the team. She's still the analyst. But Kunazuka's not there yet. And then Akane's not there yet. So it's kind of cool to see how the dynamics of everyone shifts as the story changes and you get new people involved in it. That part's kind of cool. I liked it. But yeah, I liked the showdown. We got to see Kogami do some fighting, which was fun. But then, and Kogami, of course, he can't go a movie without getting a handsome scrape on his cheek. He can't go a movie without that happening. But then, yeah. Then we have, SUGO having his moment where he gets to fight what do I want to call it? He gets to fight the robot that's used for training, and he manages to beat it. Also, Ayanagi, I can't tell if she couldn't swim or if she just got knocked out and then into the water, and that's why Masaoka went after her. Either way, good on Masaoka for saving her, right? And of course, I love that it took Kogami, Kagari, and Ganoza to take down the one training fighting drone, and then they're like, this was a waste of time. Grumpy Ganoza's great. But make note, it took 3 of them to take that robot down. It just took SUGO. So, I don't know what that says about SUGO being super strong, but I feel like that's something to take note of. But yeah, then they find out the whole deal with Rin. The only thing I would be questioning, other than the fact that we had the little retcon, was that the drone, it seems to be like somewhat auto-programmed, but then it's also got AI in it, so it's like it's telling its files and its memory bank while also having this AI that lets it keep up with the conversation in real time. And it's so bizarre. But, the one thing about Psycho-Pass, you can't really question the technology because it's all in the future. So, of course, this technology exists, right? So you're like, okay, just roll with it. But I kind of think that's interesting. And we have a lot of AI now where I'm like, I wonder if at some point there's going to be like artificial intelligence that as they're reviewing crime scene data and as they're putting together bits of information that they've found, if they'll find a way for like an AI to auto-generate a narrative, that leaves a lot of room for error. So I kind of don't know if I want that. But if it did something like that, like it does here with the robot, that's kind of interesting. And I could honestly see them making this technology. So kudos to that, I guess. But yeah, then SUGO finds out that he killed all of them, which sucks. Poor SUGO. They do make the note, they're like, soldiers are for killing, but not with the gas. And I'm like, well, the part that sucks is that SUGO didn't realize he was the reason that Oscar died. That's the part that sucks. It's like the part that they were killing people and that the others died. It's like, well, you're going to do that anyway. So, but the fact that SUGO didn't realize he killed Oscar, that part kind of sucks a lot. So then, yeah, I like that Masaoka's like, hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just want to make known that we're still in this case. Where's the person controlling you? And that's when we get to Rin. What sucks is the idea that she ends up dying, though. Ugh. And then poor SUGO, like the look on his face when he realizes that she's going to die. Oh, my God. and then he goes and finds her, and there's that shot of her like about to take revenge, and she has like, she's like, her hair is wavering in the breeze. Oh my God, as she hears his story. Oh. And then she finds him. Oh, that whole scene of him like crying and comforting her dead body. Damn it, Sugo. It just sucks so bad. I hate seeing Sugo suffer. And he suffered a lot in this series. Again, another comparison to Ganoza. I don't ship Ganoza and Sugo together, but they do have a lot of points. And I mean, I'm shipping mainly Ganoza with Akane. I did ship Sugo and Ganoza together in season 2. So I can multi-ship, right? Right? So, you know what? I would say on my tiers of shipping, Kogami and Akane are like up at my top. But after the movie, I'm like, I am perfectly fine settling that Kogami and Akane are probably not going to end up together, which is sad. My ship still lives on, but it's sad they're probably not going to end up together. Then I have, well, what if Akane and Ganoza ended up together? I'd be totally fine with that. And so that's where that ship is. And kind of adjacent to it now, maybe a little under it, is Sugo and Ganoza. Because I'm like, Sugo and Ganoza have so much in common. They have so many threads connecting one another. They're both highly compassionate, emotional people who are also extremely competent. You have Ganoza's the brains, but he's like got a metal arm, so he can also be the brawn, but Sugo can also take out that arm. So I'm like, if you had told me that Sugo and Ganoza end up together, we have Shon and Kunozuka. Show, don't wimp out on us now. I'd be fine with that, but poor Sugo. Poor him. And then at the very end, when the one guy that tries to get away gets hit, I like that Masaoka's like, bitch, you threatened my wife and kids, so here's your justice. He also had this one line that was really, really good. What do you say here? They had this line about justice. Once you get a taste of it, you get addicted. Oh. And that's like Akane, right? Right? It's amazing. And that's what he tells Sugo. Yep. Once you get a taste for justice, you become addicted to justice and values. I freaking love that they get to share the brandy together. That part was so good. Oh, I've taken so many screenshots. So yeah. And then we talk about him getting transferred back, and we cut back to present time, and he's like, look, thanks for the offer, but as you've seen from my hour-long backstory, I'm not going to be joining the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. I'm going to stay an enforcer, and that's just the way it's got to be. And she says this cryptic line here at the end. He even uses he's like, I do this job because I feel justice and value in it. And once you have a taste of that justice and value, you become addicted. Again, we talk in the series about symbiotic relationships and parasitic relationships, especially with the Sybil system. And this idea, to Akane is addicted to justice and value. And she's addicted to it not only because of her conversations with Saiga and Masaoka, but it's like the cigarette smoke from Kogami's cigarettes. She's just addicted through it. Now, Mika, I don't think Mika's addicted to it. I think Mika's terrified and is just, allowing this parasite to use her as a host because she's like, well, as long as the parasite's using me, I'm not dead, I guess. But that's still so creepy. And then our blonde's like, okay, fine. I guess if you don't want to be a part of our group, that's okay. She's like, it's too bad, but I hope you change your mind. And then she moves back, like just swishes her hair, and she leaves us with this very cryptic line to go off of. She's like, it's impossible to change who you are. The time will come. So I like that she just is like, oh, by the way, you're still a latent criminal and something's about to happen. I don't know what. I'm just going to throw it down here. If you ever change your mind and decide to come with us, you know where to find us. I really enjoyed this movie. This movie was really, really good. If you had told me there were going to be 3 Sinners in the Systems movie so far, I thought they were going to be taking place after the movie, which episode 1 did. But if you had told me they were going to be a prequel, I don't think I would have been surprised, but I would have been like, oh, that's cool. But if you told me that we were going to have an entire hour-long special about SUGO's backstory, I would not have believed you. Or I never thought we were going to see Masaoka again. I never thought we were going to see Kagari again. So I wanted to soak up every second that they were in that special. And I really want to go back and rewatch it. This one was probably, I think, the easiest to understand so far of all of the plots, especially with the foreign affairs and everything. This one, to me, unless I missed something drastically important, which is quite possible, I feel like this one was one of the easier ones to understand and just kind of soak in the backstory and let it all play out. But I'm really curious now what we're going to get. We have one more that I know of these. I know we have 3 center in the systems. I don't know what comes next after that, but my moderators are going to let me know. So don't feel free to not tell me that. They're going to let me know. But I know we have one more centers in the system to watch. So that's exciting. But in any case, I'm curious to hear your thoughts down below. I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'm going to be back very soon with the final of the Sinners in the System movies. Bye!